Hello, and welcome to the Great Irish Tenors. I am E. E. Bell, actor, entertainer, and your host for what I hope you will find to be an entertaining and educational look at some of the great voices behind the treasured songs of Irish music. So, what is an Irish tenor? Well, let's take a look. Tenor, from the Latin tenore, or to hold. The drift of something spoken or written, as in the tenor of the conversation turned ugly. The exact copy of a manuscript, as in he boasted that he owned an original Shakespeare sonnet, but it turned out to be just a tenor. Just a tenor. I don't like the sound of that. And finally, the highest natural male singing voice, or a person with that voice. So, the tenor voice is the highest natural male singing voice. Natural singing voice. Unfortunately, there is a higher male singing voice. It's called the castrati, and it involves maintaining a male child's immature voice through surgical means. What's the matter? Don't we have a slide for that? Huh? Oh, yeah. I guess so. Moving on. So, how high can a tenor get? Pardon the pun? Well, that depends. The range of notes in the tenor voice traditionally goes from C to shining C. The middle note on a piano is called middle C. It sounds like this. Now, the note that is 8 notes, or 1 octave below middle C, is called low C, and it sounds like this. And the C 1 octave above middle C, called the tenor C, sounds like this. Now, any individual tenor voice can go higher. As a matter of fact, the great voices always do. And the real money note, the one that most folks love to hear, is called high C. And it sounds like this. Oh, now that is truly great tenor territory. But most operatic and choral parts are written for the tenor voice in the 2 middle octaves. Also, classical training divides the tenor voice between its vocal qualities as well. The most forceful division of these is the Helden tenor. They have a big, powerful voice, and are most often found in German Wagnerian opera. Yeah, that guy. The next type of tenor has power as well, but can also be soft and put great drama into their singing. These are the dramatic tenors, or the tenore del forzo. The greatest of these was the immortal Enrico Caruso. He was trained in the classic Italian operatic style, and is arguably the greatest tenor of all time. Certainly the greatest Italian tenor of all time. He was known for his classic operatic repertoire, La Bohème, Rigoletto, but was most famous as Puccini's Pagliacci. But he also loved to sing the romantic and comic Italian folk songs of his native land. The third tenor voice is the lyric tenor. This voice has a softness and soaring quality that suits it for dramatic work of an even more romantic and sentimental nature. Ah, romance, drama, and sentiment. Now we're talking Irish. So, the Irish tenor is a lyric tenor who is Irish by birth or heritage, or by virtue of choosing to sing Irish songs. Membership in the club is pretty open. So, who are the members of this club? Ireland must have had many traveling bards throughout its 2,000-year history. Lyric tenors that went from court to court, entertaining kings and chieftains. But sadly, their names are lost in the mists of time. So, let me tell you a tale of the great Irish tenors we know about. Thomas Edison made his first recording in 1877. So, we have recordings of Irish tenors who were either at the end of their career, or at the height of their career, or just starting to make their mark on the world as of that date. Now, for several years prior to Edison's great invention, the most prevalent form of popular stage entertainment was the minstrel show. White men would put on blackface makeup and perform the most outlandish, stereotypical kinds of song and dance and comedy because, you see, up until the end of the Civil War, African Americans, mostly imported as slaves, were the biggest single immigrant population in the country. And that tends to make one a target of the humor of the majority. The practice was so ingrained in culture that even great African American performers like Burt Williams had to put on blackface makeup to perform. But as the economically lower class European immigrant population increased, both just before and after the war, this minstrel tradition expanded to include characters that were stereotypes of the various nationalities that were pouring into the country. The Dutch comic, which was a polite term to cover the German and Jewish characters. And the Irish comic, whose character was all about drinking and gossip and sentimental ballads of the old country. Well, into this tradition was born our first great Irish tenor, Chancellor James Alcott, known as Chauncey Alcott. His parents were two of the millions of Irish immigrants who came over to flee the Great Hunger in Ireland and settle in New York. He started out as a minstrel, then as an Irish comic, and even though he was not classically trained, his clear, lilting tenor rose above the chorus. And in no time at all, he was starring in shows with completely Irish themes, many of which he wrote himself, such as the tale of the scrappy young Irish street vendor who meets the love of his life, but must pretend to be a rich socialite in order to win over her father, only to find out that Dad is just a softy for the old sod, and as the youngster sings a touching ballad, he brings the old man to tears and wins the girl. Okay, I just made that one up, but that's the kind of show it was. And in addition to the stories, he would write the music. Ah, the music, finally. At the height of his popularity, or so the story goes, he took his new bride back to Ireland to visit the land of his ancestors. And when they got back home, one day in 1899, the eve of the new century, he was sitting at the piano, stuck for an idea for a song. His wife went to the photo album and took out a pressed flower. She said, "Remember what the little Irish lad said when you asked him what kind of flower this was?" To which our first great Irish tenor recalled the lad as saying, "And sure now, miss, that's a wild Irish rose." If you'll listen, I'll sing you a sweet little song of a flower now drooping its head, yet dearer to me, yes, than all of its mates, though each holds aloft its proud head. 'Twas given to me by a girl that I know. Since we've met, faith, I've known no repose. Yeah, she's brighter by far than the world's shining star. I call her my wild Irish rose. My wild Irish rose, the dearest flower that grows. You may search everywhere, but none can compare to my wild Irish rose. My wild Irish rose, the dearest flower that grows. And someday, for my sake, she may let me take the bloom from my wild Irish rose. You may sing of your roses, which by other names would smell just as sweetly, they say. Ah, but I know that my rose would never consent to have that sweet name taken away. Her smiles are shy whene'er I pass by the bower where my true love grows. My one wish has been that someday I will win the heart of my wild Irish rose. My wild Irish rose, the dearest flower that grows. You may search everywhere, but none can compare to my wild Irish rose, my wild Irish rose, the dearest flower that grows. And someday, for my sake, she may let me take the bloom from my wild Irish rose. So there it is, the story of my wild Irish rose and the great Irish tenor who created it. Tune in next time for a look at another great Chauncey Olcott song and to meet some of the friends that helped him create the music we love. Till then, I'm your host, E.E. Bell. Thanks for watching The Great Irish Tenors.